Welcome again to Word of Faith. My name is Maxine Jogona. Always an honor and a pleasure to share with you the Word of God, because truly this is how we find our victory. We are on this short series on the Word of Faith on the ingredients of revival. If you have not watched part 1, please go back and watch part 1. This is part 2. We are looking at the 3 ingredients that can be able to activate revival upon an individual, upon a family, upon a nation, upon a territory, even as we continue to yearn and seek for the next move of God. So let's call this the ingredients of revival part 2. And we are going to look at the second ingredient that has the capacity to activate revival in our lives. And oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. The second ingredient that activates revival is the power of consistent prayer. It is the power of consistent prayer. Not just praying, but the consistent prayer. This is a kind of prayer that goes beyond the span of time. It is not the kind of prayer that you pray when you wake up, when you hit out of your blankets. And in this point, I'm speaking to the young people, because we are the next frontiers of the next move of God. It is not the kind of prayer that you pray before you have that meal. We are talking about the depth of the secret place, that you have a meeting place. The same way that the nation of Israel had a physical meeting place. It was called the tent of meeting. And so God told Moses to prepare this place called the sanctuary, the tent of meeting, because this is a place where God will meet with the nation of Israel. And the priest will go forth. And one of the elements of being in the inner court was the place of the incense of prayer, the altar of prayer. One of the ways by which you gauge one of the ways by which you gauge a territory and a nation that has not yet been able to get into the depth of revival is by gauging their level of prayer. And so when the enemy wants to attack you, the first thing that he does is to make you silent. You know, I was sharing this with our Powerhouse, our team, our Powerhouse Youth Service, and I was sharing with them that the spirit of depression is a spirit that attacks your words. Because when you're truly depressed and when you're truly sad, you do not even have the power to utter words. And so the spirit of depression is the kind of spirit sent to the enemy, to that individual, to silence them. You cannot praise and you cannot pray when you're silent. And so the way of depression is to silence the person who should be praying and singing praises before God, because in this life, the ways by which we receive increase, the ways by which we rise is by prayer and thanksgiving. And so this individual is attacked through anxiety and worry, placing you into that corner where you cannot even be able to pray. And the enemy knows that when he silences your words and my words, the depth of prayer has been cut short. And yet, one of the elements of revival is a family that has mastered the power of consistent prayer. The place of the individual who has mastered the place of consistent prayer. It is not enough to pray in the sanctuary on Sunday morning. It is not even enough to pray when you're going out with that person, when you're just about to enter into that boardroom. We are talking about the depth of the secret place. And so the psalmist says, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High. Do you have a meeting place between you and God where you supplicate before Him in the moments of prayer? You know, I'm always amazed by the celebrations of the public, but every person who is doing well in the public, if you truly sit with them, they will tell you that there is something you cannot see. You saw the accolade being passed to them. You saw the qualification being passed to them. But the victory is not in what you see. It is in what that person has mastered. in the private place. And so Jesus comes and says, speaking to this crowd, he tells the crowd after speaking this parable of the widow who continued to pray, he says, men ought to pray. Paul would echo the same words to the church of Thessalonica when he tells them, pray without ceasing. One of the ways by which we begin to activate the move of God, if you are yearning for the move of God in your family, in your workplace, and even in the places that God is sending you, is to stay in the place of consistent prayer. Thank God for the prayers that you have prayed in the public. Thank God for the prayers that you have prayed in that Bible study. It is time now to go back to the secret place. So the second ingredient of the next move of God upon an individual, if you're praying for revival, the pattern of activating revival is consistent prayer. I pray that you shall receive this word and that you shall take this word deeply in your heart and begin to create a place where you meet with God. And when you cultivate consistent prayer, there are some things that will even come to you miraculously. There are some qualifications that you will not need to go out for, because the depth of prayer has the capacity to attract all that you need in this life. So men always ought to pray. Thank you for listening. May the Lord bless you. And I pray that you will listen to this message and share it with someone else, even as we talk about the next move of God. May the Lord bless you. Shalom.